America's most cherished rights, the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, freedom of the press, all those have their roots in Great Britain, but in Britain itself, those rights are dying out. Tommy Robinson is a journalist and a political activist there. One of Robinson's chief causes is raising awareness about sexual abuse, grooming, and rape committed in his country by immigrants, mostly from the Islamic world. Those crimes are ones that local authorities have ignored in order to avoid being called bigoted. Last year, Robinson attempted to cover a gang rape trial involving several Muslim men in Canterbury. For that, he was arrested, given a suspended jail sentence, and told not to cover any further trials. Undeterred, this past weekend, he performed a live stream outside a sexual abuse grooming trial in Leeds. In a free country, of course, anybody ought to be able to say what they think on a public street, but Britain is not a free country anymore. So in a matter of hours, Robinson was arrested, tried and convicted, and sentenced to 13 months in jail. That was fine, by the way, with most members of the press there and here. The judge further barred the British media from even reporting on Robinson's imprisonment, too. That ban was only lifted yesterday, 4 days after he went behind bars. And that, too, was fine with most journalists in Great Britain and here. They said virtually nothing about it, amazingly. Katie Hopkins is a columnist with the Rebel Media. We talked to her about this earlier. Katie, am I misstating this? I mean, it sounds, and I know the pretext for this is that he was interfering with jurors, but he was speaking his views on a public street when he was arrested and convicted immediately and sentenced to over a year in prison. Am I mischaracterizing that?
You're not at all. That's exactly what happened. He was outside the court. He was reporting on the trial of a grooming gang, as I would call it, a rape squad. It's a cause, as you rightly say, that he's believed in for so many years. And he's one of those people who's been calling this out relentlessly, despite all of the slurs that are made against him. And yet, within 5 hours, he was arrested, he was tried, and he was sent to prison for 13 months. And none of us were allowed to talk about it, write about it, mention it, because there was also a ban on any of the media speaking about it.
Well, that's the part I don't understand.
These are very dark times in the UK. It's a very curious feeling in this country at the moment. And I would say the country is on a knife edge. There is a real sense now that we are against our own government, that the establishment is working against us, and in order to cleanse voices it doesn't like, it will put them inside for as long as it needs to shut them up.
That's horrifying. I don't know, I'll be honest, anything really about Tommy Robinson. I don't care. I don't know what he believed. It doesn't matter. He was saying what he thinks in public.
Take that, Tucker. I don't know Tommy either. I'm not a colleague of his. I'm not. I don't work with him. Many people say he's an idiot, and in some ways I concur.
So what?
He's been told not to report at these trials, and yet he's still there reporting. He didn't go with his lawyer or solicitor. You know, he knew he was going to get into trouble. But then I say to myself, even if you don't like the guy, even if you don't know the guy, surely there's some fundamental principles like,
yes,
where was the swift justice for the victims of the grooming gangs? Where was the swift justice for the 11-year-old that was raped? If we can get Tommy in prison within 5 hours, where was the swift justice for these men? And where was the swift justice for the victims? And I would also say, no matter what you think of Tommy, whether you hate him, love him, don't know him, throwing him in prison when he is a guy who's repeatedly called out majority Pakistani grooming gangs, rape squads, that is a death sentence for Tommy Robinson. And we may criticize, our government may criticize the Russians, like for getting rid of Skripal and other spies they no longer want in our country. But our government knows if they put Tommy Robinson inside as they have done, and if he's put on an open wing, he will not survive his time inside. So I don't see how we're any different from the Russians. If this is how we're going to cleanse people that speak out against the establishment, these are dark times.
Where are the media? Where are the media in this? I mean, so again, you don't have to like this guy or know anything about him to understand what's at stake here, which is freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of the press. Why would media outlets in Great Britain go along with this gag order? Why didn't they just defy it? Go ahead and arrest us all. If this isn't a civil rights issue, then what is a civil rights issue?
Well, this is where we divide, Tucker, into right and wrong, good and bad. And I have to say, I feel like the majority of mainstream media right now in the UK is on the side of the bad. It is more important for them to be seen as multicultural and accepting and welcoming to our Muslim colleagues and our friends than it is to stand up for what we know is right. So it suits them much better to say, well, no, Tommy Robinson is an idiot. He was told not to be there at the court. He was still there at the court, and the law is in every sense justified to throw him inside. And they're celebrating, just as they're celebrating with Roseanne. But actually, what we have to ask ourselves is, what happened to freedom of speech in the UK? Because I firmly believe, and it's my opinion, we no longer have freedom of speech in the UK, and I believe Tommy Robinson will be killed inside the prison, and it will be the establishment that have blood on their hands.
Everybody watching this should be horrified. This is a threat not only to your rights, but to the rights of every American. Our rights derive from the British system. This may be a glimpse into our future. We should fight back as hard as we can. Thank you very much, Katie.